Good afternoon and welcome to another Talk Wildlife Talk. This afternoon I'm talking to Paul Sterry, who will need very little introduction. He's written sort of quite a few bird guides, and also he's been very instrumental in the Bird Photographer of the Year awards, which take place every year. But I don't particularly want to talk to him about bird potty at the moment. We will come to that. What I want to talk about is a new initiative that Paul and his colleagues at Bee Potty have come up with, which is Birds on the Brink. So first of all, Paul, hello and welcome.
Hello there, Alan. How are you doing?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Very good, thanks.
Good. Thanks ever so much for giving up some time to talk to us about Birds on the Brink. I talked to Rob about it over the phone a few days ago and was bowled over. I think it's a really good initiative. So if you wouldn't mind, just give us a little bit of background, first of all, to yourself and to Bee Potty, for those people that might have been on Mars and not come across Bee Potty. Okay. But a bit about yourself and Bee Potty, and then we'll go into Birds on the Brink.
Yeah, so I suppose, I mean, in a nutshell, I've spent an entire lifetime working with natural history, photographing wildlife and writing books to go with the images. And I've come to a point in my life where I feel I ought to start giving back to wildlife, since it's been so good to me over the years. And one of the things we did a few years ago, 5 years ago to be precise, was to start Bird Photographer of the Year. And as well as celebrating the artistry of bird photography, what we wanted to do was promote conservation by inspiring people to care. So we started off working with the BTO, and in essence, I guess we've fledged now. We've come to a mature point in our lives where we thought it's time to form our own charity. So what we've done is created a charitable incorporated organisation, to be precise, called Birds on the Brink, and that now wholly owns Bird Photographer of the Year and derives its income from the competition. So that's really the genesis of it. It was born out of a wish to inspire people to care, but also slightly out of a sense of desperation at what's going wrong with the world around us. I mean, the statistics speak for themselves, but if you were to go back to the years before the dodo went extinct in 1681, for example, if you sort of tweak BirdLife's data, you'll find that there are, I think it's 11,147 birds were alive and doing well on the planet. And now the statistics are 164 of those are extinct, 225 are critically endangered, 461 are endangered. I'm using their tiered list of what's going wrong. A further 800 are vulnerable, 1,107 are near threatened. So it's shocking, really. And as BirdLife, their other estimates put the decline in bird numbers in the UK alone 44, I think I'm just looking at my figures here, 44 million fewer birds compared to the 1960s. So we thought we've got to do something. Yeah. We can shout and scream, which we try to do, but why not use imagery to try and convert and inspire and shame and shock people into doing a bit more? So that was the genesis for Birds on the Brink. And I should mention that the collaborators, the driving forces behind it, are Andrew Cameron, who's Bird Photographer of the Year's chairman, Rob Reed, obviously, Andrew Cleve, and we've also got a team of an advisory panel that include Mark Carwadine, Mark Avery, and Mark Bolton, 3 Marks, and Keith Betton, one of the our Hampshire colleagues. So that's really where Birds on the Brink comes from. It's a grant awarding conservation charity, so what we're trying to do is identify projects that will benefit from a relatively modest amount of money, but in the most measurably good way. So that's really our intention. We're a small outfit. We're just starting out, but that's really what we're aiming to do.
Yeah, and I mean, over the last sort of week and a half, 2 weeks, I've talked to Project Godwit, I've talked to WaderQuest, and I've talked to yesterday I talked to RSPB about the Curlew project, and it is worrying. I mean, you look at the figures, and you know, birds are in, well, wildlife as a whole, but birds in particular are in serious trouble. So for something like this to come along, especially linked to something like Bee Potty, which has already got sort of a good name, a good brand, and utilising those images, because for those that haven't seen Bee Potty, you really need to look on the website and buy the books. They are full of just brilliant photographs. They get better year on year. So for it to be linked to that, it's a really good idea, and really using those images to get the point across that, look, we need to take action, and we need to take it now. So I think what we'll do is I'll go onto your website, and then we'll just give a little bit more of a background of, you know, what you're trying to achieve and some of the projects that you're already working on. And then from that, I won't come back to you. I'll stay on shared screen, because I want to talk about your ebook that you've launched earlier this morning. So I'll share screen now. If you give me sort of 2 seconds to do that, and then we'll continue talking about Birds on the Brink's aims. Right, so here's the website, and clearly an excellent image on the front. I'm hoping you're still there and you can still hear me all right. Is that...
I can see you, yeah.
Excellent. Right, okay, so if we sort of look at this, you know, this is the Birds on the Brink websites that I've brought up. And if you continue just to give us a little bit more background to the aims and how you're going to actually support some of these charities and who you're already supporting.
Yeah, so we're inviting, excuse me, I'll just my seat. We're inviting suitable applicants to, you know, to approach us and tell us about their projects and what they have in mind. To give you some idea, what we've worked on so far has been, as you can probably guess if you're a hardened birder from the image on the screen, the Bermuda petrel or cahau nest recovery program. I don't know whether people know about the cahau or the Bermuda petrel, but it's a miraculous story. Thanks to the work of David Wingate and Jeremy Medeiros, this bird has literally been brought back from the brink. It was thought extinct for nearly 300 years, and they're doing a marvellous job there. So with the help of the Bermuda Audubon Society, we're driving funds to help with their nest program. You can read more about the project itself and the twists and turns and the varied fortunes it's had over the years, but it's a remarkable success story for a bird that, when I was growing up, it was thought to be extinct. So in my early years, so hooray for that. It's not just charities we're supporting. We're very keen to explore any projects that benefit conservation. So we've teamed up with an outfit called Hookpod that some of you may have heard of. Hookpod is an innovative device that prevents albatrosses and other seabirds being caught on long lines. I think we've got a bit of a problem with the. There we're back on.
Don't worry, it won't be your website. It'll probably be my internet.
You know, I fell in love with albatrosses when I first went photographing them at sea, and it was shocking to realise that something like 100,000 albatrosses are killed each year on long lines in the euphemistic term bycatch. So they get drowned. So hooray, Hookpod is doing some practical good in that, and every pound you give them but pays for another part of another Hookpod, which saves an albatross life. So that's what we've done so far. I think we've given them £1,000, and let's see where it goes from there.
I'm in the process of, through your good self, trying to arrange. In fact, I've actually got a date in for Becky Ingham, whose name see there. I'm talking to her in early May, so we'll be doing, in fact, I'm going to stop on that picture because it's amazing. I'm going to be talking to her early May, and likewise I'll be talking to somebody from the other project that you've mentioned, hopefully in the not too distant future as well. So, you know, we'll be able to give people a bit more information about their projects, and also sort of discuss with them how they can also fund them. So
yes, there'll be ways and means of just directly contributing to their funds, so hooray.
Right, okay, so I think what we'll do then is if we come onto your ebook now.
Yeah,
hopefully my internet is not going to play. Oh, there you go. Right, so this is something that you have launched today. It's cracking. I've only had sort of 20 minutes sort of look through it, but it's a stunning piece of work. Could you talk people through why you've released this book and what you're hoping to achieve with it?
Yeah, certainly, Alan. I mean, we had planned to launch the competition and run an exhibition at the Oxo Tower Gallery starting on the 1st of April, and that's, you know, it got a huge footfall, and there would be billboards all over Waterloo Bridge and that sort of thing. But clearly that didn't happen. So we thought, we'll essentially rewrite the contents of the exhibition and embellish it a bit and turn it into an ebook which people can download, and if they want to, they can make a donation once they see what we're all about. So hopefully it explains pretty much what I've told you so far, the origins of why we wanted to form Birds on the Brink, how it works, and we've just selected a few target subjects to feature, as we were going to do in the exhibition. So there are some habitats that we feel passionate about, so UK farmland and UK woodlands and forests. We've targeted a few wonderful conservation stories, so there's a feature from Mark Carwardine later on. There are some dear, close to our heart species that are listed for all the wrong reasons, i.e. they're heading towards extinction, and finally a link to the past with a celebration of the work of Eric Hosking, who was really, he was the pioneer not only of bird photography but of conservation, because he worked with the likes of Guy Mountfort, and were it not for him, there might not be Coto Doñana national parks, there might not even be WWF, who knows. He contributed in a visual way to the genesis of conservation, you might say, and in a sense we're following in his footsteps, or attempting to do so. And it's great to know that his son David is also on the Bird Photographer of the Year judging panel. So, you know, hopefully history's gone full circle in a way.
Yeah, and I had to scroll down. Sorry if I gave you all cease and sickness there, but I did have to scroll down because I did want to come to some of these, because these are sort of pioneering photographs. You know, these sort of broke new grounds, and I mean something like that. I remember seeing that on the wall when I used to work at the British Trust for Ornithology, and thinking, how do you do that? Incredible. And it's basically, bird photography has sort of progressed. And there's obviously new equipment and all the rest of it, but still, it takes a lot of beating that photograph. It's an absolutely stunning photograph. I'm sure you'll agree. Yeah,
it's absolutely amazing. And if you read the text, you'll discover, you know, you'll get a bit of an insight into the lengths to which Eric Hosking had to go to get these pictures. I mean, not only losing an eye, but you know, using plate film, so that he was often only able to take 3 or 4 images a day, and then he wouldn't know for, you know, wouldn't have processed and worked up the films for you know, until he got home, you know, a month later from a trip. Quite astonishing.
Yeah, it is amazing. It astounds me. There was another one of stone curlew that was on the wall at the BTO as well that was just amazing as well. So yeah. So yeah,
a standout, you know, perhaps an unsung hero of conservation in some ways, because then, and perhaps to a degree now, the impact of imagery hasn't perhaps received full credit. So, you know, that's really where we're heading with all of these projects. And we're not only trying to speak to the, you know, to the converted, as it were, in the form of people who love birds and are aware of conservation. We're trying to use the imagery to target, you know, perhaps the indifferent minority that, you know, that might be struck by something that's either a comical image or some powerful image in some that captures the imagination, might cause them to linger and actually read the associated text. So that's where we're going.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I think you're making a really, really good point there, because, you know, imagery is a very good way of capturing people. And, you know, if they are somebody that's just got a sort of minor interest, and even people that haven't got an interest, you know, I think the more we can talk about wildlife, the more we can show wildlife, the more we can educate people about wildlife. I think that's better, not only for the individual, because I really do feel that wildlife, you know, can sort of help your mind, but also for wildlife itself. I think we've got to find a way of educating people that are not necessarily already into wildlife, so that they can understand it and they can stand in the way of things like HS2 and all the rest of it. Absolutely. So imagery is a great way of doing that.
Yeah, and you know, I'm sure you'll agree that it's, you know, those who are in the know are in the minority. So it's the majority that we need to engage. And you can hector and lecture and berate people, but often the way is to you know, to capture their hearts and minds first. I'm sure there's you know, there's an American general who said something along those lines, but we won't go into that here. If we could just go back to the Eric Hosking
yeah, sure,
for a moment, Alan. There's a bit of an interesting backstory to that. When Eric Hosking died, his son set up a charity called the Eric Hosking Trust, which gives out conservation grants as well. And early on in its running, it gave a small grant, it might have been £500, I don't know, to a chap called Mark Bolton. And it so happens that Mark is somebody I've known since school days, and he's now Dr. Mark Bolton, who works at the RSPB on seabirds. You know, in the main, I think that's his passion. But the grant that he received from the Eric Hosking Trust enabled him to start work on storm petrels at the Brock of Musa, and his pioneering work has really gone on to inform and expand the seabird research worldwide. So if Birds on the Brink could do something comparable to that, you know, I could die a happy man, because I think what that small amount of money did has caused a revolution in the understanding of what seabirds are about. And we're really pleased also that Mark is on the advisory panel of the Birds on the Brink charity. So it's sort of gone full circle, and that's, you know, that's a good thing to do.
It's really good. It's really good that it's sort of almost kept in the birding family. It's interesting that you should mention that project. Another project that I did an interview for in another guise of Talk Wild before I started doing videos, with Tim Birkhead about his Guillemot project.
Yeah. And
again, that was an amazing project, but he was scrabbling around for funds. So, you know, projects like Birds on the Brink, ideal area really for him to have at the time gone to for funding. So the likes of yourself and Wade Quest, that type of thing, you know, able to give sort of, you know, small amounts of money that will make a massive difference. So it's an absolute credit to you guys what you're doing. I have to say, you know, thanks very much for doing it.
Pleasure.
Right, what I think I'll do is, because I'm conscious that people will be getting sort of seasick me going up and down, I will pause there a second, because that's just stunning. I am going to stop. I promise you, I'm going to stop sharing screen in a minute. But what I'm doing is just sort of whetting people's appetite so that they can go out and get hold of this. I mean, look at that; it's just amazing. So, right, I will stop sharing screen now. I'll stop having a play, and we'll finish off talking about Birds on the Brink. So, just bear with me 1 second. Right. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, fantastic piece of work. Why is it free?
Which bit free?
The book.
Why is the book free?
Yeah, why is the ebook free? I'm not saying it shouldn't be charged for, but I think there's a really good story behind why it's free.
A charge for the exhibition. You know, it was a free to enter exhibition, and you know, so we want to get the word out there of what we're doing. If people want to give a donation, hooray, but it's there to be used and celebrated, and really to disseminate the message that, you know, there is a problem with birds and wildlife. And if some of that information is used, hooray, and it would certainly, it would be entirely against the ethos of the project to charge money for it. We're about sharing. Absolutely,
and that's what I knew you were going to say. And the reason I ask is because, you know, to get something free nowadays, it is not that easy. To get something of that quality free, because that is really good quality. I've only had sort of 20 minutes to have a look through it before we've talked. I haven't even read half of it yet, but it looks amazing, and I'll certainly be doing so tonight. So all I can say to people is go and have a look. While you're there, make a donation. It's a class piece of work. You would pay good money for it if you weren't getting it free from Birds on the Brink, and do what you can to support Birds on the Brink, because it's clearly, you know, its aims are excellent, and I'll wish you every luck with it, and hope to be involved with it as we go forward, you know, to talk a lot more about it. So unless you've got anything else to add on Birds on the Brink, I'd like just to mention Bee Potty. Anything else you'd like to discuss on sort of Birds on the Brink first?
No, I think that probably covers everything, and if for the moment, and there will be developments as we grow, and yeah, we can come back and talk about that subsequently.
Brilliant. So, okay. Right. So I will come back before we end and just talk a little bit about how people can apply for grants from you, because it's a quick and easy piece. But just because everybody will be sort of aware that, unfortunately, you know, Bird Fair and, you know, the Norfolk Bird Fair have both been cancelled this year. I know you always launch the Bee Potty book and the awards at Bird Fair. With sort of that comedian Chris Packham, that's the guy. So that's not going to happen at Bird Fair. No. What are you planning on doing? Anything in particular?
Well, we're continuing with our our itinerary. So the winners will be announced and the book will be published around the time of Bird Fair. So that'll be, you know, the middle of August. And what we're going to do, at the very least, we will have an online, you know, video presentation, and we'll run through the winners. And who knows what technology we'll come up with, but probably it will be a fairly static thing with a voiceover, I would think. Hopefully we'll get some interviews from the winners. Chris has kindly offered to do a voiceover, so we'll have his dissection of the qualities or otherwise of the images, which will be great. And we'll launch the competition then, again, the next year's competition at the middle of August, and re-emphasising the fact that all the profits from the competition now go directly to Birds on the Brink, because Birds on the Brink owns Bird Photographer of the Year. So it couldn't be more transparent.
And presumably the book will be out around about August as usual, is that right?
In theory, yes. Rob and I have finished checking and working on the PDFs for the book. In a couple of weeks' time, when Dave Price Goodfellow, who's the chap we work with in DNN Publishing to put the book together, when he's finished what he's got to do, he'll give it to Collins, and Collins will, and wait for it, will send it to China to be printed.
Ah, right.
So I'm assured but that you know, all is well, and it will be here in August, but yeah, we shall see.
Yeah, and I'm sure, you know,
we're working on.
Yeah, given where we are, I'm sure everybody will understand if it runs a bit late. And let's face it, whether you buy it in August, as long as you can buy it in time for Christmas, it's an amazing Christmas present.
Yeah, Rob is working on some great promotional ideas, so ways of replacing for this year, hopefully this year alone, replacing Bird Fair. So that's what we'll do. But we'll, depending on what happens in the you know, in the video world, we may, you know, who knows, we may host the award ceremony on Talk Wildlife, but I don't know what.
But right, that would be amazing.
At this point in time, it's hard to say what we're going to do, but we will do something.
Excellent, excellent. Right, so just finally, before we close off, we've mentioned the projects, we've mentioned the website. How do people actually go about applying for grants? Is that
on the website? You know, that's grants. So what we will be wanting to know is you know, precisely how the project would be delivered and what it might be delivered and how it would be measured, the success or otherwise, and really that that the source of, you know, using Birds on the Brink as a grant source is something that, you know, we don't want to fund operations, I guess you would say, that where funding might be found from larger, more authoritative bodies, whether they be builders or whether they be other large conservation organisations. So it's the young, innovative projects, you know, fledgling projects that might fly under the radar for the bigger boys in the conservation world, and things that are, you know, a bit left field. Let's just see, you know.
Yeah, because the small projects, like, you know, I mean, you know, people that put swift nest boxes up, you know, that type of thing. Presumably, that's the type of thing.
Work, as long as, you know, it's we wouldn't want to be, for example, funding an enterprise that could be funded by a builder, for example, or you know, where a larger conservation body is involved, be that a statutory government body or whatever, that is underfunded. And so we don't want to be funding projects that should be funded by other people or could be funded by other people. So it's just come to us with interesting ideas. And you know, it's a difficult, I hate to use the word unprecedented because it's so overused, but whatever we look at this year, we'll have to look at with a bit of a prism, because there are some projects that are just not going to get off the ground because you can't get out there and do them. So, you know, plant some ideas, come to us and talk is the main thing. And Andrew, you know, Andrew Cameron, Andrew Cleve, Rob Reed and our excellent advisory panel are there to sort of scrutinise and make sure that you know, it ticks all the right boxes for a small fledgling organisation like Birds on the Brink.
Yeah, and it goes without saying, because obviously you've mentioned HuckPod, the Bermuda Petrel, that, you know, this is international projects. It's not just homegrown projects. So
sure, yes. So it's, you know, it's projects that can't find funding anywhere else, perhaps, and things that don't receive necessarily, that, you know, aren't bathed in glamorous limelight. So just who knows? Well, what will appear in our in tray, but we're hoping for great things.
And you're doing great things, so, you know, I wish you every success with it. You know, there's a few things that have come out of this interview which just, you know, number one, buy the Big Potty book. It's great. Number 2, definitely go and download, and while you're there, make a donation to Birds on the Brink. Download the ebook. And then one of the sort of most powerful things that I think you touched on during the interview, not that it wasn't all powerful, but is that what you said about actually educating and talking to people that are not necessarily already converted. And I think that's absolutely key. You know, if there's 1,200,000 people in the RSPB, and each one of them talked to one person and got them interested, you know, that's
Snowball. Yes. I mean, I guess I should also, as a final point, mention the BTO, the British Trust for Ornithology. They were involved with Bird Photographer of the Year right from the start. We've given them a considerable amount of money over the years, and with the next round of the competition, we're launching a new BTO Special Garden Birds Award. So,
right,
what I want to do on behalf of the BTO, and I'm sure they do too, is to do exactly this. Draw in people who are not necessarily inherent conservationists, and at this time when people are locked down or confined to their gardens, I think it's a great time to refocus people's minds on you know, their immediate surroundings and the impact, and reflect on the impact that they would have been having if they're out in the wider world. So
yeah,
all power to the BTO, and we're, you know, working together.
Excellent. Great message to end with. I have to thank you. You know, this was done at really short notice. Thank you ever so much for your time.
Wasn't it?
And I will stay in touch, and will do more as you go forward and as you build on this. So for the meantime, Paul, thanks ever so much.
Yeah. Bye-bye then.
Okay, take care. Thanks a lot, and keep talking wildlife.
Yeah, will do. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.